The names of baseball heroes, synonymous with greatness. Names from generations past, from generations present, sharing a common spirit. What is their link in baseball history? What is the bond that brings them together, generations apart? Why do they share a common stage? Major League Baseball Productions presents Generations of Heroes.
Swing and a fly ball deep to center field. Gone!
Well, that's a lot of home runs. I mean, over the course of the time that I've been playing, I don't think I hit that many combined in the total that I have, plus the ones I've hit in batting practice.
Line drive, right field. It's high, it's deep, it's gone. And it got there in a hurry.
It's almost inconceivable that anyone could hit as many home runs in a career as he did.
That ball is gone! Goodbye, baseball!
No man in the history of the game ever hit more home runs than Hank Aaron. But is it a record that will fall?
No, it's not possible. I think that's going to probably be the only one record that would stand.
Others feel different. They say there is a player out there who should make Hank watch his back.
Anybody can do it. I think Junior can do it because Junior got the jump on most guys because he was already hitting home runs in big leagues where other guys are still in college. So you figure he has about a 3 or 4 year jump on anybody that's even close to him because of when he got there.
I've always said that if it's anybody that's capable of breaking a record, my record, it would be him because of his consistency and he's young enough to do it.
Junior, a high fly ball, belted.
Watch this swing. You think he knows it's gone?
You think he does? And the pitch on the way, and it's swung on, hit well to left field. Back goes Surhoff, and it's gone. A grand slam home run, and number 50 for Ken Griffey Jr.
The last 3 years, he's hit over 50 home runs, and he has a huge part of his career left. If you look to someone, you know, he could challenge it. And again, if you work from the principle, somebody has done it, therefore somebody else can.
And that ball is belted deep to right center field. Ken Griffey Jr.
I love the way the kid plays. He's a great offensive player, but I like him because of his defense. He's willing to sacrifice his body for a catch.
He's the best defensive player I've ever seen.
0-2 pitch driven on the line. Griffey dives. What a catch by Griffey.
I mean, I think Ken Griffey is so talented that there isn't anything that he was challenged to do that he couldn't do.
High ball into deep left center field. Griffey going back to the 1-8 track, and he's got it. An incredible catch by the kid. Junior over his shoulder makes the catch.
I'm sure that it's the case that he'll do something, and you just kind of look at it, and your mouth will drop open, and you're almost in disbelief. I would have to be certain that a pitcher would throw a pitch high and away to Hammer and Hank, and he would do something with the ball and drive it out left field, and everybody would look at it and say, how'd he do that? And I think that's probably the connection that Griffey has and Hank has.
Henry Aaron was a complete player. He was not just a home run hitter. This guy was a great base runner, a good outfielder, and sacrificed himself for the team, and he did everything.
There goes Henry Aaron. Askews throw it to Carew.
As I said, when I look at the books and you look at the overall stats, and you see that in almost every category offensively, he's right there. He's either 1 through 5.
He could just play baseball. Play in the outfield, he ran real good, he threw people out, he hit the ball for an average, hit the ball for a home run. So I think a lot of things wasn't recognized that Aaron did because he did it with such ease.
I think the best hitter maybe right now that we're talking is Henry Aaron.
He's mostly a risk hitter. He's at the last second, and when you think the ball is past him, he will hit the ball quick.
Quickest hands I've ever seen. He's explosive. I mean, he waits till the last second, then he releases his hands, fingers, and wrists. And he had a type of thing. If he hit the bottom of the ball, it would rise like a golf ball. And he was just unreal. And his hands were so quick. I marvel at it. It's one of the few guys I would go out and watch him hit batting practice because he was just so great.
Hank was one of the guys that when you made a mistake, he very seldom, if ever, missed it. A lot of guys will pop mistakes up and go back and throw their bat down and curse and throw their hat. Hank didn't have to do that because when you made a mistake, he hit it, and hard.
Baseball's most feared slugger made his historic assault on the home run mark, armed with a bat and an unwavering focus.
The one thing I noticed about Henry is that when he was on the on-deck circle, he was always focused on what the pitcher was doing. And I'm sure he was doing that in the dugout. So by the time he came to the plate, he knew what sequences you were going to use.
At certain times, a pitcher would get him out, and he'd come back, and he would just sort of just very casually put his helmet up on the hook there, and he would sit down, and he would just watch that pitch from there on in. And then once I saw him do that, I knew the next time he saw that pitcher was in trouble.
3-1 pitch. There's the drive into left field. That ball is going, and out of here. Henry Aaron has just tied Babe Ruth in the all-time home run parade.
It was the first strike he saw that he left the yard with. And then all of a sudden, holy smokes, that's the tie. Now we're ready for the record breaker.
He's sitting on 7-14. Here's the pitch by Downing. Swinging. There's a drive into left center field. That ball is going to be out of here. It's gone. It's 7-15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
I tried to throw all sinkers low and away, figuring if he's over anxious, he's going to swing at one of those pitches. Of course, he wasn't over anxious. He was never over anxious. He was just sitting back waiting like a cobra.
I just remember pointing over the fence. I just said, it's gone, it's over the fence. And I just remember him going into his trot, because Hank had a cold trot. I mean, he had probably the coldest trot around, because his one arm would move, and his arm here would kind of be still, his arm would come back up.
It just sticks out of my mind where those fans ran out on the field when Hank Aaron hit that home run. That stood out of my mind. It's just always there, is that those two guys just could not contain themselves. They just ran on the field. They couldn't wait.
The sellout crowd is cheering. Henry Aaron, the home run king of all time.
An unbelievable home run record. The champion, the challenger. Can Hank be caught? Will Griffey be the one to do it?
As I mentioned many times, the records are made to be broken, no matter who they belong to, so 755 eventually going to come along someday and somebody going to break that.
Mike Schmidt was the classic third baseman in every way.
Mike Schmidt, what a play to get him!
To play third base, Gold Glove. To hit home runs, could do it.
Swing a long drive! There it is! Number 500! The career 500th home run for Michael Jack Schmidt!
He had that sort of swagger, that confidence.
Home run! Mike Schmidt! Oh, brother!
More Gold Gloves
than any third baseman who ever lived except Brooks Robinson, combined with more 30-homer seasons than any player who ever lived except Hank Aaron. And that's a pretty good combination.
Long drive to left field. He buried it. He buried it. Mike Schmidt puts the Phillies up 6-4. Oh, what a drive by Schmidt. Unbelievable.
In my opinion, he's the best third baseman ever to play the game.
The recipe to be the best calls for more than just athletic ability. It also requires good health, longevity, and some remarkable consistency.
Only 3 years in my career were average, so to speak. I had 15 other years that were league leader type years. In every year I was leading the league or a candidate for the most valuable player in some degree every year I played the game.
Fans up on their feet want Schmidt to take the ball. Here he comes.
The combination of big-time home run hitter and great fielder is, it's hard to find.
With that said, Lightning couldn't strike twice for the Phillies. Or could it? Meet third baseman Scott Rowland, an exceptional fielder and a man with the ability to hit lots of home runs. Is a comparison fair?
It's not an easy thing for any player, 20, 21 years old, to be compared to the greatest third baseman who ever played. Scott Rowland was no different than anybody. It was difficult for him to hear those things. But there's something about Scott that's so refreshing. He's so mature for a guy his age. And he knows he's not Mike Schmidt. He knows he's a different type of person. He's a different type of player. And he's been able to walk in that shadow. And it's as large a shadow as you'll ever find in baseball. And still be his own man. And I really admire that about him.
If I was born and raised in Philadelphia, I think it would have been a problem. But I was born and raised in Jasper, Indiana. And Jasper, Indiana doesn't get many Philadelphia Phillies baseball games. So I never watched Mike play. I knew who he was. I knew he was an all-star. I knew he was a great player. I never grew up being Mike Schmidt, so to speak, because I was so far removed from him, from the part of the country that I was in. I think that took a lot of the strain off, a lot of the load off.
Do I have the audacity to say that Scott Rowland could be another Mike Schmidt? No, I don't. But he is a good-looking young player.
I think Scott Rowland's the greatest thing come along since sliced bread or sliced hoagies. Brought my name back to the limelight in Philadelphia. You know, I've been away from Philadelphia for 7, 8 years. Of course, the Hall of Fame was big in '95, and then this guy Scott Rowland comes along. He's got tremendous talent, and the comparisons start between he and myself. And my take on the whole thing is, and the comparison that I would make is that he's way ahead of me.
It's true. Unlike Scott Rowland, Mike Schmidt began his major league career in a sea of strikeouts. His rookie year, he struggled with 18 home runs and a 196 average. The problem was the pitching.
I had a great deal of ability. Everybody could see that. The game came very easy to me in a lot of areas, but one area that didn't come easy to me was going to home plate and coping with major league pitching.
Schmidt, if people remember, early in his career, I don't think he hit 200 his first year. Danny Ozark was our manager at the time, and he said, I don't care what this guy hits.
I said, you're going to hit the way I want you to hit, or you can take off. I said, your damn 198 average didn't impress me or anybody else, and your 245 average over there didn't impress me.
It was a rough year for me. At the end of the year, I met the lady that became my wife and went to winter ball and seemed to grow up a little bit in that offseason. Hit a home run to beat Tug McGraw the first game of 1974 and went on to have a hell of a career.
In contrast, Rowland's career began with a bang, but he's still taking it one day at a time.
Well, I don't go out on the field to someday be the greatest player that ever played the game. I go out on the field to get the job done on that day. That's how I want to play. As far as goals go, season goals, career goals, I have no goals. Goals are limits to me, and I'm not going to set limits for myself. I didn't think I could hit 31 home runs last year.
Let's just say Rowland was rocking and rolling on that swing.
I didn't think I could win a Gold Glove last year, and I did.
Great play by Scott Rowland.
If I set a goal for 20 home runs and you get to 20 in August, are you done? You know, my goal is to drive in as many runs as I possibly can to help the team, to score as many runs as I possibly can to help the team, and to give everything I have out there. Those are my goals. I refuse to set limits on myself.
1997 Rookie of the Year, owner of a Gold Glove, and the first Philly with 30 home runs and 100 RBIs since Mike Schmidt. Is it fair?
Well, I think it's unfair to compare him to a Hall of Fame player, but Scott Rowland is the real deal and has the same approach to the game that Schmitty did.
You know, now it's still not a comparison to me. You know, there's no comparison. I hit 31 home runs last year, and, you know, he has 548. What is there to compare?
Well, there is one thing Mike Schmidt never accomplished. One thing that just might give Scott Rowland a comparative edge.
The one thing that eluded me in sports that I'll never, ever live down and take to my grave is that I never was able to dunk a basketball.
I could dunk a basketball, but I have a few inches on some guys.
When you look at Nolan and you look at Roger, and you're looking at the classic power pitcher.
They stood tall on the mound. Nolan Ryan, Roger Clemens, two Texas gunslingers with fastballs that cracked like buckshot. They rode into town and staked their claim as the fastest guns to come out of the West.
When you face guys like Clemens and Ryan, your heart's gonna beat.
It's me against you, you know. The good old Western shootout, you know, let's get it on.
Ryan was the first, a silent young Texan who began his career pitching in relief for the New York Mets. When he was traded to California, he became part of the rotation, and it all began to click. The legend of Nolan Ryan began to grow.
I'll never forget it. I was sitting in Oakland, watching him when I was younger. He threw a curveball, and it seemed like you could hear the spin of it in the stands. I mean, that whoosh.
Making contact with a Ryan pitch became a chore. And even then, hits were at a premium.
No-hitter, Nolan Ryan!
He pitched 4 no-hitters in 8 seasons with the Angels. And the Ryan Express then moved on to Houston. The Texan had come home, where his legend grew even greater. With 4,000 strikeouts, he blew past the legendary Walter Johnson to become the all-time strikeout king, and threw a Major League record 5th no-hitter.
The ground ball to third. He has got it, Art. How? He got it! Nolan Ryan! No-hitter number 5.
His next stop, the Texas Rangers, at the age of 42. Surely his power would start to wane. But no. Every time he took the mound, he earned another slice of history.
Fly ball, right field. Ruben Sierra in foul territory. Number 6 for Nolan Ryan. The Express has done it once again. Here's the payoff pitch. He struck him out swinging. Strikeout number 5,000 in history for Nolan Ryan. That's it. Number 7 is in the books. The remarkable Ryan has done it again.
He had fostered a legacy of power, of greatness, one born in part by a most intimidating presence.
You know, Nolan would walk around the mound and he would grunt and he would stare at you and he would look at you and he would, you know, he'd throw extremely hard. You know, he would throw pitches in tight on you that make you wonder. You know, I mean, is the guy, you know, is he gonna hit me or not?
Well, fear factor with Nolan definitely is part of the game.
And they wanted the fastball up on him.
I think what winds up happening with Nolan was not only was his stuff that good, but also he had the aura about himself. When he took the mound, it was the Express.
And the aura of this larger-than-life Ryan Express quickly drew the attention of another young Texan.
The first time I went down to the railing in the dome and I watched him warm up, and it was so loud to hear him. I could hear the ball the air and the ball traveling through the air, and then when it hit the catcher's mitt, the loud noise that it made, it kind of threw me back a little bit to see somebody throw the ball that hard.
But this young man also began to throw hard.
Struck out the side. 1, 2, 3.
He led the Texas Longhorns to the College World Series title and blasted onto the big league scene in 1986 with 24 wins and a major league record.
A new record. Clemens has set a major league record for strikeouts in a game. 20.
So dominant was Clemens, 10 years later, he did it again.
Here's the 2-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. That's 20 on the night for Roger Clemens, who has tied his own record.
Clemens captured 3 Cy Young Awards with Boston and an MVP. Then it was on to Toronto for 2 more Cy Youngs and a strikeout milestone.
And he's out on strikes reaching. That's 3,000 for Roger Clemens, who strikes out the side.
The only man in history with 5 Cy Young Awards had established his own legacy. And throughout his career, he's always looked back to his boyhood idol for valuable life lessons.
When you talk about Nolan Ryan, you talk about power pitching, and so I was maybe a little infatuated with that to see how he generated that much arm speed, and surprisingly enough, that's where I learned how to use my legs.
No doubt your legs play a big role in pitching, and if you have a leg problem, then you have an arm problem because you can't pitch without your legs being strong.
Ryan worked hard to pitch 27 years in the major leagues. Roger noticed and followed suit.
And I was able to get magazines and photos of him, and then I would catch pieces of information about him, that all the work that he did behind the scenes as he got older. That really became prevalent in my career, and in talking to him what I'd have to do after the age of 30.
Clemens and Ryan, powerful Texans, almost a mirror image.
Same tenacity, same good overpowering fastball, and same confidence when he's out on the mound. And he also has that aura about himself. So I put Roger Clemens in exactly the same category as Nolan.
Wherever he's pitched, Roger Clemens has emulated his fellow Texan. With a blazing fastball and a slew of strikeouts, he most definitely has succeeded. Just ask the hitters who face him.
Those 2 cats are really just 2 in the same. And I think, really Roger loves to be like Nolan. And I think it should be that way. Guys should try to be like some of these guys of the past.
Nolan Ryan is now a Hall of Fame pitcher. It's just a matter of time before Roger Clemens joins him. The streets of Puerto Rico still echo his name.
God wanted me to play baseball.
Clemente is the leader, and everything he did, it was great. And I really thank God that I played with him.
You're quite often asked the question, who's the best player you ever saw or played with or against, and quite often I say Roberto Clemente.
Roberto Clemente.
He can do everything so well.
And a great all-around player. Great arm, great defensive player, great flair on the field.
Clemente was aggressive. He played the game he loved to play, and he played from the heart all the time.
Roberto won 4 batting titles, and his .328 average in the 60s was the highest of the decade. He ran the bases with abandon and captured 12 Gold Glove Awards. He was one of the greatest players of his generation, but even that doesn't begin to explain his overall impact on the game.
A lot of people thought that he was a rebel.
If I ain't good enough to play here, I have to be good enough to be treated like the rest of the players.
What he was trying to do was the fact is to help the Latin players to come from the States and get adapted to this country.
But I am very outspoken. I say when I feel something that not only about me, or I feel something that is injustice toward my teammate or somebody else, I'm going to say something about it.
He was saying, leave something behind. Help somebody else, because we're going to be gone from the Major League pretty soon, and let those young people come on in and benefit for what we can pass along to them.
Clemente spawned a whole new generation of Latin American Major League players, men who carry the memory of his heroic legacy.
Boy, that's a big name, especially for the Latin Americans. To say that anybody's in his class, Roberto's one of a kind.
We all knew in Puerto Rico about him, and we all knew about the legend, and we all knew about the mystique, and we all grew up, thinking, how great a player and a person he was.
Oh, Roberto Clemente, greatest ever. For me, it's a big inspiration for myself. He's a great human being. And him never forget the people and helping people. I like him because outside the line, great national hero for Puerto Rican people, and inside the line, one of the best.
One of the youngsters so influenced by Clemente grew up across the water in the Dominican Republic.
Every player comes from the Caribbean. They want to be like Roberto Clemente. He was my idol. When I was a kid, I just want to be like Roberto Clemente.
Baseball being very, very good to me.
And in 1998, Sammy Sosa did indeed live up to the stature of Clemente.
There she goes, number 62. Move over, Big Mac, you got company.
I'm just pleased to say that I saw a piece of history last year, and I was a big part of it, and it's something that I'll never forget and that I'll tell my kids and grandkids about.
And there are the targets.
Deep left field, and can you say 66? Sammy's got the home run lead.
Sammy Sosa had a season for the ages. He was the National League MVP, and it was all achieved in the image of his idol.
When I make it to the Major League, give me opportunity to see or be like somebody that I want to be.
Sammy Sosa has been a fan of Roberto Clemente's for many years now. We saw him play in Pittsburgh. When he came with the Chicago Cubs, he wanted the number 21. And I spent a great amount of time with Sammy, and he often talked about Roberto Clemente. He wanted to know a lot about him. From time to time, you could see it, not only if you look at the 21 on his back, but I think if you look at him, how he played the game of baseball, I think you'll see a lot of similarity between Sammy Sosa and Roberto Clemente.
He played right field, and I played right field, and he got a good arm.
Clemente gallops over, grabs it, whirls. Here's Retman coming to throw. What a throw!
I play hard, and he always was playing hard too.
What a jump by Sammy.
Center falling pretty fast out there. It is caught by Clemente with a tremendous running, sliding catch. Whoo, boy.
It's only natural that Latin American players like Sosa and Clemente would need time to adjust to baseball in the United States.
His first couple years, he probably had trouble with our customs, and we had trouble with his a little bit. After he got accomplished over here and settled down, and he was just, he was funny. He could keep you laughing for hours. He just, he had that wit about him.
Let us be happy.
I've seen Sammy grow a lot from an immature young kid that was just talented but didn't really know what was going on to a kid that now knows the language pretty well, a kid that has really given a lot of himself to not only the Dominican Republic but also to the United States.
It is here that Sosa and Clemente have a link that extends beyond the playing field, for they never forgot their roots, their homeland, and those less fortunate. Their spirit of giving never wavered.
I'll never forget where I'm coming from. God gave me opportunity to be who I am and give me opportunity to be somebody. But I never forget my people back home in the Dominican Republic. And I remember those days when I was there, when I was struggling, I always find somebody to help me. God gave me so much right now that I want to share with other people that don't have nothing.
From the first day, I said to myself, I am from the minority group. I'm from the poor people. I represent the poor people. I represent the common people of America.
But of course, Clemente's benevolence was cut short, and he had an eerie premonition of his fate.
How soon can you get your 3,007?
Well, you never know. If I'm alive, like I said before, you never know because God tells you how long you're going to be here.
In his last at-bat of the 1972 season, Clemente got his 3,000th hit. But it was the final hit of his wondrous career. That winter, while helping take supplies to Nicaraguan earthquake victims, Roberto tragically perished in a plane crash.
And he died doing that. He died trying to help people. So that's how much people appreciate him.
Roberto Clemente is like Jackie Robinson for us. And for all the Latin American people, Roberto Clemente is one of them idol, and he never gonna die.
You said it was unbelievable to be in the same sentence as Babe Ruth, but for our generation, you are Babe Ruth.
Well, thank you.
In 1998, Mark McGwire captivated the baseball world with a Major League record 70 home runs.
Where's this one going?
When he hits them out, they're not just clearing the fence anymore. They're skyscrapers. I mean, they're pitches that people can get on and take a flight to another country.
Great googly moogly, he did it! Mark McGwire, a towering home run!
Ooh, the press, just him in the box. You want to watch. I mean, you're trying to watch him at the same time. Hey, he might hit the ball too, man. I got to get him out.
To be a baseball player myself and yet be an admirer of another baseball player is pretty fascinating.
The home run's the easiest thing to understand. It's the sexiest thing in baseball. There's something about it. Knocking one out of the yard, hitting one out of the park. It's a home run. Plus, the guy it was first associated with, really, in the public imagination was Babe Ruth, who's still the biggest name in baseball history. So you put those things together, it has a romance about it.
In Babe Ruth's 22 seasons, he hit 714 home runs, en route to a phenomenal .342 career batting average. For 34 years, Ruth held the single-season home run record with 60.
There'll never be another Babe Ruth. People came there to see him strike out and gave him a standing ovation when he struck out. When he hit one, he dropped the bat and started his trot. He knew it was gone. He hit it out of sight.
He changed baseball into what we all come to enjoy, power,
Every sport has one player who defines the game or sort of takes the game to a level that it wouldn't have otherwise achieved without him. Babe Ruth is definitely the player.
Yet in the 20s, only one chief clown, one chief hero, one chief everything in the game, George Herman Ruth.
Ruth is the only player I know that when he came out on the field, everybody stopped It was like the star came onto the center stage, you know. And when he went up to take batting practice, nobody looked at anything else but Babe swinging that bat up. And I'm talking about his own players, and I'm talking about the visiting team. And when you get that kind of magnetism, you know that you're the star.
It can be safely said that in 1998, Mark McGwire achieved Ruthian status as fans flocked to see him hit both during and before games.
There are a lot of guys that have a lot of power, and there's a lot of guys that hit home runs, but no one stands and watches BP for every player. Mark McGwire will come out, and people will come out and watch him take BP just to see how far he hits it.
When he gets into the batting cage, they stop the music. People stop selling the Cokes, the peanuts, the popcorn. Everybody's watching. Everybody is frozen in time, and it's phenomenal to watch.
So we ask the question one more time. Is Mark McGwire this generation's Babe Ruth?
A definite link between the two guys. Obvious reasons are they're both big men, both burly men. Both hit tape measure home runs, both tough outs. You know, McGwire is not a 200 hitter that swings for the fences every time, although his swing does seem to be one that wants to launch the ball over the fence every time he takes it, but he's a good hitter. He almost hit 300.
There it goes. This is it. It is a home run. Wake up, Babe Ruth. There's company coming. It's Mark McGwire with number 60.
You know, I was speechless when people put your name alongside his name. I wish I could go back in time and meet him. I mean, obviously, he was probably the most important sports figure in the world at that time.
You know, he went out and hit 70 home runs, and for 6 months, that's everyone ever talked about. I mean, my grandma doesn't even watch baseball, and she was talking about that Mark hit a home run today. So that he captured the imagination of every American, international. I mean, it was the talk of the summer.
Swing and a long one. Calling air traffic control. A 3-run homer for McGwire. He is amazing, dazzling, remarkable.
There are the Mark McGwires, which is phenomenal, but it's still Babe Ruth. I mean, the measuring stick will always be in baseball. What is Babe Ruth?
As far as the aura around both of those guys, they're much similar in that they both love children.
If there ever was a time that I'm going to try to hit a home run, it's sure going to be today. For you boys.
They both stand for causes that involve kids. I know Babe visited a lot of hospitals, and you saw a lot of pictures of him with kids in his arms. And they both helped to uplift the game in an era when the game needed a hero.
In the history of baseball, 2 men have averaged a home run every 11 at-bats. 2 men have hit them so deep and so often, they've truly become folk heroes.
And Mark McGwire was able, much like Babe Ruth did, to take the sport of baseball and lift it up out of the stadium and plant it down on Main Street, where everybody walking down the street, every man, every woman, every kid, knew who this guy was, knew what he was doing, knew why it was important. And that's something that's very rare in sports. It's very rare in life, that one man who plays a game can have that effect on that many people.
Eat your heart out, Eddie.
Nobody reminds me of Johnny Bench. He was the best. He's the best ever. And I say it with all the credibility and honesty in the world that nobody had a transfer from the glove to the throwing position as quickly as Bench had. He sucked up balls in the dirt. He was a power hitter. He hit for an average. He was a leader. Nobody could catch like Bench.
My father thought that catching was the quickest way to the big leagues, and he thought that that's what the big leagues needed. As a result, I had a reputation as a catcher all my life because I started out as a catcher when I was 6 years old in Little League.
He was probably the guy that jump-started the whole different view of what people thought of catchers. And when, you know, management was putting together their teams, now they could look for guys that were athletes. The position was more, let's get a guy that can do more than just put on the tools and get back there and catch.
Johnny Bench was more than perhaps the greatest catcher of all time. He was also a pioneer. To keep his right hand from taking a pounding, he kept it behind his back, and that changed his craft.
Well, I probably revolutionized it because now everybody's one-hand catching. But, well, I learned to do things and how to sweep tag and do things that nobody else had been able to do because they'd always been two-handed catchers, and they'd take that round glove and they'd stick it down there. And I learned to catch the way Johnny Bench could catch.
Milton, sit over here with Jonathan. Sit over here. Jonathan. He's smart.
John had big, strong, very quick, very sure hands.
Here we go. Bench's throw right on the money. Look at that kid throw.
I thought Johnny had the best arm of any catcher that I've seen because of the way he threw the ball, and I think it came across his ear, across his right ear, very truly.
Were Bench simply a great defensive player, we could end this story here. But he also forged a legend with his bat.
He was a great offensive player, not only hitting for average, getting on base, driving in runs, scoring runs, but just such a huge threat for the home run.
And a pitch to Bench. Change hit in the air to deep right field. Back goes Clemente. And the save. He's done it!
There it is. He's up, and it's gone. Oh, my. A home run for Bench on his night. Look at John.
He wanted to pull everything. Anything you threw off speed, I mean, watch out. He was on it.
Get him, boy. Get out of here. Get out of here. We're world champs, men.
What we have seen from him, we'll never see again from anybody. In other words, the only time you could ever see the things that he did happen was if he did them again.
In fact, Bench was such a sensation for his generation, we needed two catchers from the present for comparison. Ivan Pudge Rodriguez of the Texas Rangers for the defense, and Mike Piazza, now a New York Met, on offense. Pudge has won 7 straight Gold Glove awards, more than any catcher in American League history. His 50% caught stealing percentage is unheard of.
What are they doing special on you?
They want to follow some guy named Pudge Rodriguez.
Jeter to third, the throw is in time.
I like everybody to try running on me because I like to throw the ball.
He likes to throw, and you know that you shouldn't be just drifting off, and because he's quick, and you know if you're not alert enough, then he's going to pick you off.
This guy has the most incredible, quickest feet. Everyone talks about his arm, but he has the quickest feet I've ever seen. And his arm is just a bazooka. So when I play against the Texas Rangers, I pretty much stay put.
There go the runners, and Rodriguez will throw out Shave at third base.
Certain catchers go out there and 6 guys try to steal against them. But Pudge goes out there, there may be only 1 or 2 guys try to steal against him. So he might as well have credit for throwing out those other 4 guys because they didn't even try to steal.
1 out.
He's just very light and quick with his feet and his release. As far as shutting down the running game, he shuts the running game completely down. And Bench, back in his time, pretty much did the same thing.
Johnny Bench, he got 10 Gold Glove. You know, it's not easy to reach that mark by a catcher. But you know, I just tried to do my best. I got 7 right now. I'm just looking forward to try to win my 8th one, and after that, see what happens.
Throw all the way back through, and Sorrento is a dead puck.
With 5 Silver Slugger awards and 4 straight 300 seasons, Pudge is also quite a force on offense. but we like Mike. Mike Piazza of the New York Mets. No other catcher has power like Bench.
He is a tremendous offensive player. For a guy to catch 150 games, hit the number of home runs, and hit the average that he's hit, phenomenal.
When we're in the dugout, he's fun to watch because I think he's unique in his ability to hit the ball and hit it hard.
And a high fly ball, you can forget about this one. Piazza puts one over the bullpen.
You know that you've got the guy beat a little bit when you go up there, and you could sense that he's kind of nibbling. He really doesn't want to throw you a pitch that you're going to hit because he knows that you're going to crush it.
You see where that ball was? Over his head. Look at that. Look where it went. Check his bat. Check his forearms, not his bat.
He is a smart hitter. He's not just some big, strong, muscly guy getting up there and is able to hit. How he's able to turn a ball game around with the swing of one bat, he did it a few times that we saw last year. One of my games against Atlanta, he hit a ball past the scoreboard at Shea off of Tommy Glavine.
And there's a drive to deep left. How far is that going? Over the bleachers. A tremendous blast.
Outside of McGwire, I don't think there's anybody that overpowers the ball, and he can hit it to all fields. And you make a mistake, and he has just tremendous arms, forearms, wrist, hips, everything that makes him a great hitter.
It really does take two, Pudge and Piazza, two great players, to live up to the legacy of Johnny Bench.
If you took every position and put the greatest player at that position, Johnny Bench would be the best player at his position that anybody ever was. In other words, no man will ever play shortstop, second base, first, outfield as Johnny Bench caught.
There's a long drive way back in center field. Way back. It is Willie Mays just brought this crowd to its feet with a catch which must have been an optical illusion to a lot of people. Boy.
You can't do what I do. Get out of here. No, we talk about that all the time. And what I try and tell him, don't do what I do. Just do what you can do, and the way you do it, that's your style.
That ball is drilled to deep right, and that could be number 400. It is. He's done it. He has become the first man in the history of the game to hit 400 home runs and steal 400 bases. It's a brand new category, and Barry Bonds is the only member.
Obviously, he is in a category that nobody's ever been in rarefied air. Jim Leyland said Barry's the best left fielder he's ever seen. I couldn't argue with that. If you had to choose between Barry Bonds and Ted Williams as your regular left fielder when both were in their primes, who would you take? Well, I think most people would take Ted Williams. I'd take Barry Bonds.
Bonds goes on the first pitch. Reed is up throwing, but Bonds has done it.
Best player I've ever seen. Hands down, best player I've ever seen.
The second man in the history of baseball with 40 homers and 40 steals in one season.
You get him up in big situations, he's going to beat you more times than not.
That one's high, deep right field. This has a chance. God, home run, Barry Bonds.
He's a guy, offensively, top 3 or 4 in baseball. Defensively, top 3 or 4 in baseball. Base stealer, top 3 or 4 in baseball. It's been a pleasure to play against him all these years.
In this day and time, when you speak Barry Bonds' name, you have to be careful the company you put him with. Well, in that day and time, you have to be careful the company you put Willie Mays with.
Well, you're talking about two great players there. You're talking about Willie has won most valuable players, and of course Barry Bonds has won most valuable player with Pittsburgh and the Giants.
Bonds with a drive, deep right field, go ball, it's gone, and the Pirates win it in the bottom of the 11th inning.
Willie had a better arm. Barry is very accurate. Both of them can run. Barry's probably faster.
Both probably of their time had the greatest combination of speed and power.
To an old delivery, and Mays sends another one. Tell it, bye-bye, baby. Aaron doesn't even move. Willie Mays has tied a record, 4 home runs in the game.
just the way that they play the game, you know, all out, I do see similarities there.
You see leadership in those two individuals.
Neither one of those guys you can intimidate.
Barry is choked up, and he's standing right on top of the plate, and he's just daring you to come in there.
I've never seen a guy like Willie Mays. If pitchers threw at him, they couldn't hit him.
Both of them have a sixth sense about the game.
You got to study defense, offense. You got to know who's throwing in the outfield. You got to know who's catching and how he's throwing.
And I could be standing in left field and I could say, don't throw that pitch, and I could just see it coming and boom, there's a home run hit in that situation.
I wasn't a really power hitter.
Mays hits it into left field.
I just get my balls over the fence. That was all I worried about. I didn't want to how far I hit the ball. And I think Barry's that way. He doesn't hit a lot of long home runs, but he hit hard home runs.
And he hits one high, and he hits one deep, and this one is out of here. I don't believe it.
We both hit, run, play defense, but I don't think anyone was or is going to be as good as Willie Mays.
Barry's an extraordinary player, but Willie Mays was the best player I ever saw. And Leo Durocher explained it best, perhaps, when he said there are 5 things you can do in baseball.
And that's hit with power, run, field, and throw. That's God-given. Mays could do it all.
A Rookie of the Year, batting champion, 2-time MVP, 12 Gold Gloves, 660 home runs, and over 3,200 hits. A Hall of Famer since 1979, the Say Hey Kid, Willie Mays.
A lot of people ask me who was the greatest player I ever seen. And I don't hesitate to say Willie Mays because he could do so many things on the baseball field.
He was a man. I mean, he was the Say Hey Kid. I grew up in San Francisco watching the Giants. I had a chance to experience Willie Mays personally. He could steal a base. He could go get him in the outfield. He could do a lot of things to turn the game around, and if he needed to, then he could go for the big one.
Fly ball, right field. That's very deep. That's way back there. Back she goes. Number 652 for Mays.
There was only one player I think that the whole world wanted to be like, and that was Willie, because Willie did everything. He was a people favorite. He was like the ambassador to the game of baseball. I don't think any kid that I grew up didn't want to be Willie Mays.
Of course, a young Barry Bonds did have an edge on other kids, for Barry is Willie's godson. His father, Bobby Bonds, played with Mays for 5 years, and the two became close friends. For young Barry, Willie was a treasured source of inspiration.
Willie was always challenging me as a kid. I remember when he used to catch the ball and just flick it, and it used to go all the way back into the infield, and I could barely reach the infield as a kid. And Willie used to tease me, and come on, you can't make it in the major leagues if you can't throw the ball second base. And he inspired me and pushed me in a way that I wanted to succeed.
Barry stayed around me more than he stayed around his father.
I remember playing with him in the locker room, have him yell at me about taking his glove out of the locker.
Whatever I had, he had. I didn't realize I guess, the influence that I had on him till later on in life. When he came to the Giants, he wanted to wear my number. I was kind of sad that he couldn't, but that's just the way it is. And when the number's retired, it's retired. So I had to convince him that, hey, you got to wear your father's number, man, because that's next to me, and you won't get into Hall of Fame. Now you have 24 in there, you have 25, so that's very important for a family.
So it's very satisfying for me throughout my career to have the opportunity to play in a Giant uniform. Growing up as a kid, my only dream was to play with my dad and Willie. I told him I'm going to play in the same outfield. Willie said I'd be in my grave by the time you get to Major Leagues. My dream did come true, though, because Willie's number's retired, my dad played right field, and I'm playing left field. So every time I go out there in the ball field, as though the center fielder's Willie and the right fielder's my father. So I really do have that dream come true.
Baseball is all about those dreams. Dreams that are born to one generation and passed along unto the next. It's the very nature of the game.
I remember my father taking me to a game, and that was the quality time that I spent with my father.
fathers and mothers at one time or another experienced baseball in their lives. It's an escape from the rigors of everyday life where you can go and just be with and have fun with your children and other children.
My dad used to always say, if you commit to a job, then it's natural to assume you're going to give everything you can to the job, and you see it to the end.
For some families, the shared experience of baseball goes beyond the scope of everyday fans.
It's like a dream for myself and my brother to play in the same team. We can make this dream so much pleasurable if we can go all the way and win the World Series.
Dreams do come true, and to have the opportunity to be here with my godfather, Willie, and my father, and to be able to play on the same field as my godfather got to play and my dad got to play is an honor in itself.
They saw their fathers win. They knew that their fathers were having fun and enjoying what they were doing. And as a result, it rubbed off on them. And you saw so many of them make the major leagues and become even greater stars.
The only baseball moment I can remember is getting the opportunity to play with my son.
Well hit to center field. Devon White going back. Gone!
When I hit the first home run, rounded the bases, and he was the first one to greet me at home plate, I can see it in his eyes that he was going to try to hit a home run.
And he hits one well to left center field. Dante Bichette. Back-to-back home runs.
That's a lot of fathers and sons' fantasies.
Playing with him was probably the best thing that ever happened to me.
So I look forward to taking my kid to a baseball game and teaching him and saying, you know, look at Alex Rodriguez out there when I'm retired. What is he, like 20 years old now? He'll still be playing. That's what I think makes baseball great, because that's something that every father can pass on to his kid.
One game at a time, one season at a time. And with each new season, we get a glimpse of the future as the stars of tomorrow take their first halting steps toward greatness. It's the next generation of baseball heroes with whom the future memories lie. Memories waiting for us just beyond the outfield wall, waiting on the new horizon.